What if an ordinary medical experiment turned you into something you never even imagined? Three ordinary people suddenly acquire terrifying powers. One can control people's attraction using pheromones, another can destroy objects with her voice, and the third transforms into a bloodthirsty creature. But these powers are no gift. They are the result of a secret genetic experiment. And as the three friends search for the scientist responsible, they uncover a shocking truth. They aren't the only ones who were experimented on. So who created these monsters? Why were they created? And will the three of them ever be normal again? Make sure to watch this film to the very end. Let's find out. At the beginning of the story, we meet three friends who know each other because of an experiment. The first is Hilda, a singer who performs at clubs with her boyfriend. The second is Abby, who is preparing to become a scientist. She loves science and wants to study genetics at Oxford. She even receives an interview invitation from Oxford. The third is Juan, who loves creating webtoons and studies at Yale University. One thing is common among all three friends. They each have a bottle of pills, but their bottles are now empty, and their next prescription has not been delivered yet. As the story moves forward, we notice some strange changes happening in Abby's body. Her body starts releasing certain hormones, causing everyone around her to become attracted to her. Meanwhile, Tilda is singing at the club as usual when she suddenly develops a severe headache. She stops singing, goes to the bar, and starts drinking vodka. Soon, she realizes that she can hear everything at an extremely high volume. She tries her best to ignore all the sounds around her. Something completely different happens to Juan. He suddenly loses consciousness, and when he wakes up the next morning, there is blood around his mouth and on his garden. The three of them become extremely worried and go to see Dr. Alex. After taking their blood samples, Alex gives them new bottles of pills and sends them home. However, even after taking the pills, nothing gets better. Instead, their conditions continue to become worse. Tilda discovers one of her new abilities. Along with her enhanced hearing, she realizes that she can break objects simply by using her powerful voice. Later, when she meets her boyfriend and some of her friends, she overhears them talking badly about her. She becomes upset and decides to return to the clinic. There, the three friends finally start talking about their strange side effects. Juan tells Tilda and Abby that he has discovered something terrifying. Whenever he loses consciousness, he transforms into a creature called a chupacabra, after which he ends up killing animals. The three return to the clinic, but this time, instead of Alex, they meet Dr. Burke, Alex's former research partner. After talking to Burke, they finally begin to understand what is happening. The three of them were actually part of a program in which Burke and Alex had been experimenting on people with defective genes in an attempt to modify their DNA. However, Alex eventually started making additional changes to their bodies. Burke disagreed with what Alex was doing and left the project. She explains that Alex's experiments are the reason they are experiencing such terrible side effects. Burke also tells them that Alex has disappeared from the clinic and that nobody knows where he is. However, Burke may be able to help them correct some of Alex's mistakes. To completely cure them, though, she will need Alex's help. Because of this, the three decide to find Alex. Burke then shows them a box containing genetic material that could help them track him down. Abby picks up the box and starts leaving with Tilda and Juan. Suddenly, a man attacks them and tries to steal the box. Juan transforms into the chupacabra and kills the man. He then tries to attack Tilda and Abby as well, but Burke injects him with something from behind, knocking him unconscious. When Juan wakes up, he sees Burke examining the organs of the man he killed. Suddenly, the man's heart starts beating again. Burke realizes that he was another one of Alex's experiments, and his side effect is that he cannot permanently die. Before the man can fully recover, Tilda cuts off his head and they bury him. The group continues searching for Alex, but Abby comes up with an idea. She thinks the man they killed might have some information about Alex. They dig him back up, and Burke reconnects his head to his body. Eventually, the man wakes up and tells them his name is Doug. Doug was also one of Alex's experiments. He is tired of living and simply wants to die. Burke agrees to help him die if he gives them information about Alex. Doug tells them about a laptop in Alex's office that contains all the information they need. The group searches for the laptop. Meanwhile, Doug eventually dies. After Doug's death, Alex's clinic reveals a secret office where they find the laptop. The laptop also gives them information about a girl named Hannah, who was one of Alex's special experiments. However, Hannah refuses to help them because she hates Alex. The group then begins contacting other people who were experimented on by Alex. During this search, Abby makes contact with a man named Maxwell, who invites them to Portland, claiming that Alex is also going to meet him there. Burke gives them something that can help control their side effects and sends them to meet Maxwell. Meanwhile, she contacts another scientist named Brian and asks him to help find the reason behind their side effects. When Juan, Tilda, and Abby reach Maxwell's house, they discover that he has two other friends who also claim to be part of the experiments. Maxwell and his friends knock Juan, Tilda, and Abby unconscious. They later discover that the man calling himself Maxwell is actually an imposter. He killed the real Maxwell and, along with his friends, has been experimenting on people from the wellness program. Meanwhile, Isabel uses Hannah's hatred for Alex to manipulate her and bring her onto her side. Hannah later attacks Brian and kills him. Abby wakes up and uses her pheromones to easily help Tilda and Juan escape. However, Juan transforms into the chupacabra Nora and kills a girl before running away. Abby and her friends fight Nate and his followers and manage to kill them, but they cannot find Juan anywhere, so they decide to leave. Juan eventually goes to stay at his brother's house for a while because the police are now looking for the three of them after Nate and his group are found dead. When the others arrive at the house, they meet Owen, another member of the wellness program. Owen's ability is that he cannot be physically harmed by anything. Juan calls Tilda and tells her that he is safe. However, Owen has been watching Hannah. He captures her and brings her to the others. As Owen's side effects become worse, he becomes dangerous and starts trying to kill everyone. Abby locks Tilda and Hannah inside her office and works on a cure for Owen with their help. Hannah eventually escapes. After Owen is cured, they send him back home. Meanwhile, a detective named Jim comes to Juan's house. While talking to Jim, Juan becomes suspicious that Jim and his organization may have another motive. Juan transforms into the chupacabra and attacks Jim before running away. After everything that happens, Juan returns to Burke's house, where Tilda is extremely happy to see him. They begin to realize that someone is constantly following them. Eventually, Burke finds information about Alex and sends Tilda and Juan to bring him back. Hannah finally reveals the truth about the experiment to Abby. At the same time, Isabel appears outside Burke's house. Abby and Hannah capture Isabel and tie her to a chair. Meanwhile, Tilda and Juan finally find Alex and bring him back to Burke's house. When Alex sees Isabel tied to the chair, he becomes suspicious. He shocks her with electricity, and suddenly Isabel changes her appearance and transforms into Burke. A huge secret is revealed. Burke had experimented on herself, and as a result, her body now contains two different personalities. One of those personalities is Isabel, who wants to attack everyone else. After discovering the truth, Abby asks for the cure and injects Hannah with it. Suddenly, Hannah stops breathing, and Abby believes that she has died. The group then has to fight Dominique and her people. They manage to defeat many of them. Then Hannah suddenly comes back to life with powers similar to Doug's and helps them fight. Eventually, Burke leaves with Dominique. She agrees to go with her because she knows that many other people are still trying to uncover the truth behind the wellness program experiments. Burke decides to sacrifice herself and goes with Dominique to protect the others. Dominique later tells Alex to create a cure using the DNA she provides because the cure could be extremely valuable and profitable. After Burke leaves, Alex begins working on the cure for the others. But then Tilda receives devastating news. Her boyfriend has died. Tilda immediately goes with Abby to see her boyfriend's body and takes some samples. Abby discovers that Tilda's boyfriend was poisoned. As they investigate further, they realize that Nate is not actually dead. He had previously experimented on numerous people and collected their DNA. After injecting those DNA samples into himself, Nate has transformed into a monster. Nate is now seeking revenge and starts targeting the people closest to the three friends. After discovering this, the group begins keeping a close eye on their families. Meanwhile, Alex finally creates another cure. Tilda and Abby confront Nate and manage to cure him. After being cured, Nate contacts Dominique and tells her about the cure. He agrees to meet her, but before Jim can arrive, Tilda calls Nate and uses her super-powered voice to kill him. Later, Abby develops the ability to communicate with Isabel mentally. Through this connection, she realizes that Isabel has been making her own plans. Abby also discovers that Alex has some kind of connection with Dominique. With Isabel's help, Abby manages to escape. After the death of her boyfriend, Tilda becomes reckless and starts making decisions without thinking. Alex takes advantage of her emotional state and manipulates her into helping him. Tilda leaves with Alex, abandoning Abby and Juan. However, Abby manages to contact Juan and warns him about Alex. Before she can say much more, her phone stops working. Abby and Juan immediately begin searching for Alex, but they cannot find him. Abby eventually returns home and asks Juan to help her create a cure because she trusts his skills. After doing extensive research, Abby discovers that the key to the cure is actually connected to Alex's DNA. This means they need Alex. With Owen's help, Juan finally tracks down Alex. Abby, Juan, and Burke head toward Alex's location. Meanwhile, Tilda begins to suspect Alex's real intentions. She realizes that instead of creating a cure, Alex is collecting DNA samples so that he can create even more monsters. Tilda decides to leave Alex, but he tries to stop her. Abby eventually arrives with the others. Before they can enter, Burke, who is being controlled by Isabel, knocks Juan and Abby unconscious because she wants to confront Alex herself. Before Isabel can fight Alex, Burke manages to regain control of her body and tries to talk to Alex, but Alex refuses to listen. He shoots Burke and then knocks her unconscious, taking her away with him. When Abby wakes up, Juan is missing. She realizes that Alex must have taken him to experiment on him. When she enters the facility, she finds Tilda apparently dead. Abby breaks down in tears, but suddenly, Tilda comes back to life. Tilda has also developed new powers, and her gunshot wound heals on its own. Tilda begins talking to Abby. Then Jim arrives. Instead of killing them, Jim decides to help them and tells them to find Alex. Tilda and Abby eventually reach Alex's clinic and stop him. Abby uses the cure to heal Tilda. Afterward, she also manages to separate Isabel from Burke. Jim arrests Alex and takes him away. During the investigation, they discover Alex's connection with Dominique. Dominique had approached Alex because she wanted him to create monsters for her company, Flux. Flux's job was to capture and control these monsters. Jim also has Dominique arrested. Abby gives the cure to Juan, but Tilda refuses to take it because she has started to like having her powers. A few months later, we see Tilda using her powers to stop criminals. Juan is happily living with his brother, while Abby is happy with Hannah. However, Abby and Juan suddenly begin experiencing their side effects again. We then see that Burke can still communicate with Isabel, and Isabel appears to have plans of her own. At the end of the season, Burke is shown talking to a mysterious doctor online and apologizing for some of the mistakes she has made. And with that mysterious conversation, the season comes to an end. Thank you for watching.